Welcome to the STAIR tailored session on key components of DBI. We look forward today to talking to you more about these essential components that we've been discussing as part of our model for DBI, which is from the National Center on Intensive Intervention. So today we're going to move through each piece of that DBI model and talk just a little bit more about how that might be implemented. The first step is establishing that there is a Tier 2 validated intervention in place. And you can see this sort of matches over here this validated intervention program in our model. So the first step is we want to be thinking about in our classroom the initial intervention that's already in place for a particular student. This could be in place as part of some strategic grouping in your classroom, as part of a workshop model where you're pulling back a small group, or it could be some type of computerized program, something in addition to the mathematics instruction that they're already receiving in your classroom. So that first step is thinking through what's already available for the student and establishing that there actually has been some validation of that particular program. As we move forward then and on to step 2, we're going down and looking down through this cycle from the National Center. It's over here on this side. We're thinking about step 2. And you'll see the sort of standard step over here on the side. This step is to actually monitor students' progress to see if that Tier 2 validated intervention program is being successful for the student with whom it's being implemented. So we establish a present level of performance. This is sort of like collecting baseline data to get set up, get your graph set up for your student. We set an ambitious long-term goal. It's really important. We're trying to really push these students forward, so we want to make sure that those long-term goals are ambitious. You know, students rise to meet your expectations, so we want to really make sure that we've got that ambitious long-term goal in. Then we're going to be collecting frequent assessment data. And here's where we are right here. We're down here at this step right here. We're collecting frequent assessment data to graph that data, and then, most importantly, to use decision rules to look at that data, to determine whether the student is on track, and then, if the student's not on track, to actually make a change in instruction to help support that student in a more efficient and effective manner. So that step 2 is really thinking about progress monitoring for the student as part of that Tier 2 or secondary platform. The next step, step 3, and it's over here in our model as well, is to continue that program if the program is deemed effective and to collect diagnostic data if the program is not effective for students. So you can see over here, right here at diagnostic academic assessment level, if the student is non-responsive, we're moving down to that diagnostic level. What does that diagnostic data look like? Well, it could be data from some of the assessments that we've provided as part of this project, like the DOMA, the IARA. It could be error analysis data or looking at patterns of errors from data that you're collecting in your classroom. It could actually be some patterns you've noticed as part of your ongoing algebra progress monitoring data. So we're looking at that data if the student's not responsive and trying to determine what to do next. We're actually using that data then to develop a hypothesis about what needs to happen next and to actually make an instructional change using that hypothesis. So let's say we determine that the change needs to be made in some type of specific mathematics concept. We might think about ways that we know that are evidence-based to make a change with that concept, perhaps using more modeling, perhaps using visual representations, perhaps fluency is an issue. But we make that instructional change, and you can see that represented over here in this intervention adaptation step of our model. And then We continue to monitor the progress of that student to see if that student is responsive after the instructional change. This cycle continues with the teacher making changes, looking at data, and then progress monitoring to continue to determine whether the student is responsive. This has been a little bit more about key components of DBI. Join us for our next tailored STAIR PD session.